Good morning. Why don't we go ahead and get started? We'd like to welcome everybody this morning. Great to see such a good turnout. You know, as we've done these coffees, I've had people constantly approach me and say, if you had them in the evening, we'd come. And so we've tried the evening ones, and we never get quite the turnout. So I'm kind of thinking we probably should stick with mornings, because it gets a little confusing if you go back and forth. So let's just make that decision. We'll keep it in the morning. If people want to talk with us, they're going to have to get up and come out. You know, of course, they can always come to our offices. But good morning. I'm Laura Jaramillo, the city manager, and we have Valerie Taylor, the interim county manager, with us this morning. And
good morning, everyone.
We typically start out talking a little bit about the projects we're doing, and during that time you're welcome to ask questions, and then at the end we open the floor up. I was visiting with Barbara Wesley, and we decided that when we get to the point where you all will have the opportunity to provide feedback, probably the filming will stop. And so we'll, and in some respects, I think you may feel more comfortable, because not everybody feels comfortable being on camera or in front of a bunch of people, and we want you all to feel comfortable to give us, you know, the hard truth and the, you know, the honest opinions. And so we're thinking that will make it easier for you to do that if we're not filming you while you're doing it. And we can't hold it against you, right? You're not on film. So I provided a little handout this morning. I don't always do that, but I thought it would be nice for you to have something in writing talking about the projects. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the first set of projects up there. And if you look at that, for a small rural community, we really are doing a lot to address our infrastructure, and it's definitely a challenge. We had quite a lot of money in reserve, and we're expending quite a bit of that on these projects that we had in the forefront. But there are a couple of reasons for that. The state was not giving us any additional or much additional state funding. Every time we were asking, they're like, well, you've got all this money in reserve, so what do you need money for? So we needed to get it out, and we're trying to be careful, because it's good to have a reserve, and we don't want to get that too low so that we can take care of unanticipated things. But yeah, we have our new library. It's the main library is really, they're just doing some bare finishing touches, and they're working on the coffee shop right now. The project is about a $3.5 million project, and we're going to be very proud of it, I believe. Nothing's perfect, but we asked for, we've worked with a really great construction company called Facility Build, and I've been really happy with them. From my own experience with construction projects, it's been a rather smooth project, and they've catered to everything we've asked. But they designed a wonderful facility, and a lot of the concept came from our library advisory board, and it's a group of women that you know, after looking at how the designs come out, I just think they're brilliant, and we're so lucky to have them give their feedback. But the library is going to be wonderful. It's not extravagant, though, and so that was my thing with the construction company. We want it to be nice, we want it to look nice and modern, but nothing extravagant. We're Grants, New Mexico, and we've got a lot of infrastructure needs, so we don't want to go too far out there on expenditures. We're setting a possible grand opening for December 14th, and that's a Thursday. We're thinking 4 to probably 6, and then I think that weekend the library will have other activities for families, but we'll plan a grand opening December 14th. Right now, we're waiting for the furniture. We did order some new furniture that's coming in, and that's what we're trying to time our opening on. The new wastewater treatment plant is back behind here. I went to take a tour last week, and it's going to be pretty fancy compared to what we have right now. they've got these huge cement walls that they'll be treating the water in different compartments of it, and it's a $14 million project. That project, we got an Environment Department loan, and the reason being was that we were required to upgrade our facility. The one we had was so old that it wasn't treating our wastewater to the proper criteria, and so it was a requirement, and so they've given us a loan. We are doing a water rate study right now, hoping that we're not going to have to raise rates, because we know citizens already feel like they paid quite a lot. So if we can manage the loan payment without raising rates, that's what we'll do. But the loan will start next July. We are in the middle of painting the water tanks up on the hill, and the mayor really is pushing this project, and he thinks they look bad, but for citizens, you know, I know some people are like, well, why are you painting those water tanks when our roads are so bad? But part of the deal is that when we keep them painted and covered, it protects the metal. And so it's not just to look nice. We want it to look nice. That's always great, but it protects. It's more for protection of the metal, and it'll make the tank last longer. So that's the real purpose. We're not just trying to make them pretty. We're in the middle of rebuilding George Hanisch Bridge. That took quite a while to get all the permits and okay from the Department of Transportation, and that's about a $700,000 project. As part of it, initially we hadn't planned that, but I had lived in that neighborhood, and I knew the turnoff into George Hanisch, it was quite narrow, and it was really difficult for people to be coming in and out. If there was a car coming out and you were coming in, it really wasn't wide enough. So while we're in that area, we've asked the engineers to design it to make it wider, so it should make a better turnoff there. Legacy Trail is finally moving again. I think we did a little bit of complaining in the last month, and the DOT is moving that project. We've been at their mercy, going through the proper steps, but it's moving again. We got an extension of the funds because they were going to expire, and it's looking like construction will start in the spring because we're entering the winter time now. Road paving, the city's working on about a $1.5 million road paving project. We did Encino. We've got Stevens Street ready to pave. We've milled it up, and Doris Court, which had never been paved, and that's probably going to be it for this season until it warms up again. New airport runway, it was a $4 million project. They're right in the middle of it now, and I believe we've got probably 30 more days and that project will be done. Going to be wonderful. It's all state and federal funding. The city had a very small match in that project, but we have some great engineers that have always helped us with the airport, and the state kind of looks, and any funding they have, they try to rotate it around the state, and it was our turn. So we're very pleased to have been on the radar for that funding. 2nd Street design and reconstruction, we're still working on that. We've received some additional funding to do additional phases of 2nd Street, and as well 1st Street. So 1st Street, many people always wonder why we didn't complete that first, but we have a chlorinated plume from the cleaners that was in that area, and we were told by the EPA that we could not dig down very far until that plume was mitigated. So that's the reason the City Council decided about a year ago that we were not going to wait 10 years to get that road done, that we'll at least do sidewalks and curb and gutter. We won't be able to touch the drainage, but we can get it looking nice and do an overlay so that we're not waiting 10 years to finish that. We're in the middle of well rehab and lift station work. Our lift stations that pump the wastewater to the plant are as old as the plant, and so we're working with some companies to look at how we can, what needs to be done, and then we're working with the engineers to seek funding for that. There is money at the state level for water projects and wastewater projects, so we're going to try to get some outside funding. Valve work. We're trying to do some design and get some funding. When we have a water leak, we frequently have to turn off large areas in order to fix that leak. And so if we install additional valves in more locations, we can cut down the area that you have to shut down. And so we're looking at that. An example was we had a leak on Roosevelt, and I believe it was down closer to the police station, close to First Street, and they had to shut the water off all the way to the hospital. The Good Samaritan was shut off, I believe North Hills. So it was that whole area had to be shut off. So that's not a good thing. So we're trying to look at where we can place additional valves. We're soliciting for funding. That is one of our goals, is to, because we have such large needs and can't accommodate all that, we're seeking outside funding to help us with all of these infrastructure projects. And then my next category is just we're working with our staff to improve services. We are upgrading our utility payments online. Some of you might be experiencing some difficulties because as they're switching over, I know I went in about a week ago and I couldn't pay my bill online anymore, but as they enter all of our accounts, you'll be able to pay again online, and then it'll be set up where you can do automatic payments, where you can set it up to automatically pay. It'll be a little bit more sophisticated. I'm not going to go through all of those areas, but you can kind of see we're working on things like inventory control, maintenance of our vehicles, so that we're utilizing tax dollars well among the staff who are doing the services. So a big area that we've been focusing on for sure for at least the last 3 years is economic development, and I added the rejuvenating grants because I like that term that came from our citizens. These are some of the things that I felt fall under that category. We're working on a master trail plan. So many of you heard Cibola County got funding for the Zuni Mountain Trail for a trailhead. That's been a project in the works for about 9 years. We applied for some funding, and the city just got notice that it's not actual funding, but it's technical assistance. So a gentleman named Attila Balati will be coming and meeting with us and helping do focus groups and help us come up with a master trail plan. And so we'll look at how the Riverwalk Trail within the City of Grants can tie into the Continental Divide Trail, can tie into additional trails on Mount Taylor and the Zunis. And we feel like trails are a good thing that help with our own citizens. It provides them opportunities to get exercise, and then it also provides something for tourists to come and do here in our area. A couple of things under that section. We're working on historic markers, and so we're trying to create little markers throughout town that will tell people the history. And the first one that we've got ready to go is for the caboose, and Mary Savicek helped us write the history for that one, so we have it at the sign company, and hopefully that'll be out soon. We want you to know we are trying to recruit new businesses, and a lot of times people feel like we are not. The city, the county, and the village all contribute to the Economic Development Foundation, who hired Eileen Yarbrough, and she is out there at things across the nation. She goes to many, they're not really called trade shows, but they're avenues where communities can try to market what they have to offer to companies looking to start up some kind of business, and factories and various things, and she does go to those. She's the one that when people are looking to relocate to Grants for a business, that they contact, and she helps them find, what facilities are available. Do we have water available for if it's something they need water? Do we have broadband? All those kind of things. So we are working on that. We have a board. Manny and I sit on that board, and we meet about every other month and work with many key stakeholders in our community to just see how we can attract new business to our area. we're looking at turning First Street back to a two-way. And the idea behind that, this is Manny's told me he wanted us to work on this, but we did, I did contact the DOT and they gave me my little list of everything we have to do to accomplish that. And looking at the Legacy Trail, it might be quite a trek, but we're up for it, right? So making First Street back to a two-way, we believe will be conducive to any businesses on that road. And so it'll be more convenient for people to get to the businesses. So that's the idea behind that. We also are working to lower the speed limit, at least in the core section of Santa Fe Avenue. And the reason being is that we want to promote pedestrian traffic and traffic down there so that people can shop and businesses can open. People can go to the farmer's market or whatever's going on down there and walk around without feeling like you're going to get trampled by a car going by at a high rate. So even when I try to cross the street to go to the code enforcement office, I have to run. I cannot walk. You have to run across the street. That's how fast the cars are coming. So that's another thing that we think will help business downtown.
All right.
Yes?
How hard would it be to put a crosswalk on the state road?
Yeah. You know, we just got the approval from the DOT to put the Route 66 insignias. So we're going to be putting those at the exits and entrance to Grants, and we're paying for it. It's costing about $1,200. A company named Sandbar, who paints our stripes on the road, will be doing that. We got that approval, so maybe as long as we're willing to pay for it, I think they'll do all these traffic studies probably initially, but that's something we can. I know John and Bob had asked me that because they're across the street from City Hall and a lot of people are trying to go back and forth, and that area from City Hall to Rockies would be a good spot to put a crosswalk.
That would be good.
Yeah.
Could you put like maybe some signs saying watch for walkers, or what do you call it, watch for foot traffic?
Yeah, we could do that.
You know, ahead of time so that people think about looking for people crossing.
Yeah, that's true, because we did that down by Truman Park where our fire engines come out. There's signs that say watch out for fire trucks. So we could do something like that.
Pedestrians.
Right. One thing I'm trying to research is vacant building ordinance. I had heard that there are such things, but I feel like we really need to crack down on these vacant buildings, and the people who own them need to be responsible, and also these vacant lots. We have a lot of vacant lots, and people assume they're the cities. We're keeping our lots clean, and we're on top of ours, and we're on top of the vacant ones too, which I don't like that. Sometimes we're having to go and mow because the neighbors are complaining and we can't get the property owner, but we need to start making the property owner the one responsible. If you have property, then I don't care if you live in Montana, you know, either pay us or pay somebody to clean your lot. You can't just leave it.
On that, is there something, because the city's so tied up, you know, what's in front of your house to the street? I mean, does people say, oh, the city's responsible for that, or is the homeowner responsible for that? But they should be accountable for that, because the city's only so many people. And
right.
They need to say, okay, from my house to the street, if it's the sidewalk to all the weeds, that should be their responsibility.
Right, it is. From the curb out is supposedly ours, but I see that too. A lot of people aren't cleaning that section right in front of their home. Yeah. And same in back where there's alleys. I didn't realize that till about 5 years ago. I think the city council wanted to crack down, and I lived on Balsam, and behind my house is an empty field, but I didn't realize we were responsible for so far out into the field. And so once we knew that, we got notices, and I think we were the only ones back there that went ahead and cleaned our area. Now we do every year, we mow that down, but I told my husband, well, let's just make our yard bigger if we're responsible for this, you know. But if we're gonna have to clean this, but I think we were the only ones that did, and we all got notices along that because we have the field back there. But we need to educate people, and we need to just crack down and
Get their pocketbook, fine them. Yeah. If it starts costing money, they'll start doing
But if
it.
it's the city's responsibility, why should the other citizen
It's not
take care of somebody else's property?
right.
Unless you give them that property to go with theirs, then they'll take care of it.
Yeah, the hard thing is that some of them are like, well, fine me, and so they don't pay the fine, or we put a lien on their property. Well, we'll never recover that. But still, I think we need to hold property owners responsible, and we need to, you give
For
me
city land?
no for their own property.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, no,
I thought you were
Their
talking
property.
about
No.
city land that's right next to theirs, that they gotta take care of that too.
No. Well,
Oh,
realistically, it'd be nice if they took care of the little curb area.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? I always did. I took care of all of that. I never, even the street. If there were weeds growing in the street in front of my house, I've always done that. But, some people don't see it that way, but at least if they'll take care of what's theirs, we gotta crack
I was
down.
gonna ask a question about
Uh-huh.
that building. That old hotel in town, that would have been a nice historical hotel, but it's got all broken windows in it. You know, the one I'm talking about, Wayside?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. What's happening to that?
Mr. Windhorse has cited that hotel, and I don't remember where we're at, but I know they've gotten some citations. I don't know if they've gone to court.
Yeah, 'cause it's got all those broken windows in it.
And they also have a bunch of old cars out in their lot too.
Right, yeah.
Right, he is working with that one, so I know he's
Is that
cited
an out of
them.
stater or something that owns it?
I believe they are. I don't believe they're from here. So a couple announcements on this back. I wanted to go over. Facility Build, who's building our library, just let me know this week that they want to help us with the grand opening, so they're going to partner with us on that. But they usually give out a scholarship each year, and they wanted to give the scholarship here in Grants, and they want us, the city, to give it out on their behalf. So I'll get some information out in the paper and also at the schools, at the high school. But anybody who's going to be going to college in August this next year would be eligible, and it's a $1,500 scholarship. And they would like for us to award it at the grand opening in December. So I'll be working on that, so you can help get the word out if you know of anybody who's going to school. Fall Fiesta is coming up October 14th, 15th, and the sponsors, the Grand Cebolla County Chamber of Commerce. Trek for Trash is coming October 21st. Library grand opening December 14th. And then I wanted to spend a few minutes really talking about the role of government. And frequently we get people coming to us, and even at my coffees, talking about stuff. Well, we need this, we need that, we need to do this, we need to do that. So I just kind of want you all to kind of think about what's really the role of city government, and even sometimes the council. Our role is not to put on festivals. Really, festivals and things like that, we can support that maybe through our lodger's tax to nonprofits, but typically civic organizations are the ones that put on festivals. Our role is not to start up businesses or bring in business or get business going. We can do things that make it good for business to come, but that's not really our responsibility. And so we provide public safety, which is police and fire. We provide water services, wastewater, garbage, senior services, library, recreation, animal care, code enforcement, roads, and we have a golf course, which not all places have, but that's for recreation. And then our revenue. I kind of wanted people always tell me, well, I live in the city and I pay taxes, I pay my taxes, and you're not doing this for me. And usually they're talking about property tax. And property tax primarily goes to the county. The city only makes $400,000 on property tax a year. Our big revenue source is gross receipts. So when you buy something at the store, or or you pay for a service and you pay a tax on it, we get a percentage. The state gets the big percentage. We get a little percentage. We don't even get 2%, but the state gets the biggest percent, but ours is gross receipts. So if you want more city services, it's important you buy local, you get your services local. All of that helps us. And I, you know, is just as guilty as anybody. We go to Albuquerque and we go to the movie, or we eat out, or we buy things over there, but I try to be more conscious to buy here because it helps our community. At least if we buy in state, it's helping our state as well, because if we buy something in Albuquerque, it helps our state too. But the more we buy here, the more taxes. And so that's why tourism is important, because, you know, we have a lot of citizens that are on fixed incomes or low incomes. So when we bring other people's dollars in and they buy something at Walmart, we benefit from that. Or if they eat out here, our businesses benefit, and then we gain taxes too. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Taylor. Oh, yes.
And this is probably something near and dear to Ms. Taylor's heart. Can you back up to the improving services staff policy update? Okay, what do you mean by that?
Well, our policies have not as a whole been updated since 1979. And so many of them are outdated. We have some really good policies, but we have some things that just don't work well any longer. So when I first came on, the mayor tasked me with that. We've worked a lot on the police department's policies. A lot of theirs are mandated by law, so theirs really had to be updated based on the laws. But we've been working, we have a committee that's been meeting with us, and then we've been working with the Council of Governments. They specialize and had typically written our first policies for us. So things like even job descriptions, we've been updating and just getting the little glitches in our policies that we've found as we move along to make it function better. One thing, we didn't have a vehicle use policy. And so that's a really high liability for the city if somebody gets in an accident in one of our vehicles, and we didn't have any procedures. We didn't have any criteria that we were educating our staff. This is your responsibility as a driver of one of our vehicles. So that was something we brought in. Several things like that just are either missing or lacking, and that just need to be updated.
Along with that, because this was kind of tied into what went on at your place the other day, but I know a few years back the city did the uniform thing, you know, providing them an allowance and so forth. Most of the city employees who work, they're great. The issue that's been brought to me by several people I deal with regularly is they feel, and you're not included, but they feel that a lot of the people at administrative levels and supervisory levels are not projecting a professional appearance.
Mm-hmm. So is that city staff?
City staff.
Okay.
Yes.
I have that concern.
Okay.
Yeah, and like I said, it's at the supervisory level.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen it myself, and I joke about it, and I laugh about it, and I confronted the individuals who did it, and they just kind of said, "Hold up to it."
Yeah.
That's typical answer.
Right. No, and you know, that's important. I always remember my sister's a nurse, and she's working at the Grants High School, but when she first went in to work in the schools, she was really appalled at how teachers dress, and that they didn't dress very professional. But you know, I know when I was a principal, I really tried to work with my staff about how important that was and how important the appearance of your classroom looks. And it may not affect your teaching, but somebody may just come in to drop off little Johnny's lunch, and their impression of you and your classroom is what you look like. Unfortunately, you might be a wonderful teacher, but it's the same if we go to a bank. You know, when you go to a bank, people are usually dressed nice, and they present a professional atmosphere. So I think it's important.
So the dress codes changed at the high school. 12 years ago when I retired from there, we used to have to wear, you know, pants and a shirt and whatever, and look, you know, so now they changed it 12 years ago, they come with the jeans.
Yeah, well, and sometimes they're wearing shorts and, yeah, you know, I've seen some, yes.
I want to go back to the infrastructure projects. I'm wondering, with regard to the George Hanisch Bridge, also Sacaleras, which I guess would fall under down near the end. Anyway, the season's coming toward an end now. Does it mean that George Hanisch will really they'll work on it and then by November stop and then pick it up again in the spring? So really this is projected to be a summer project?
No, they're projecting to be done sometime in November.
Wow.
Yeah, so let's see how that goes, because George, we did College Bridge, and that took at least 90 days, but I know they just had a construction meeting last week,
Yeah.
and the company is wanting to get going, but definitely there will be times when they're not going to be able to pour cement and do some work because of the temperatures.
And one thing I found lately, it's almost like I want to verify. First Street is a state street. Second Street is city. Roosevelt from First to Lobo Canyon is state, but the rest of Roosevelt is city.
Right.
And yeah, I know. I was surprised. I thought Second was state also. And with the George Hanisch Bridge, do you know if they're going to be constructing it higher than the old bridge because the flood took it out because it was a lower bridge?
Yeah, I know they're taking measures to make sure that it will accommodate a 100-year flood,
Oh,
is what
okay.
they call it, the big floods that we get every so often.
We get every 5 years.
Yeah, and it says 100 years, but we might have had a mini one this morning, right? But they're supposed to be working on that because that bridge and College Bridge, plus
Yeah.
they're looking at Roosevelt Bridge right now too, were all part of our master drainage plan. The George Hanisch one we had to put on the burner because it washed out with one of the rains we had in 2015.
Right.
Yeah, so they are looking at that to make it wider, make it conducive, and I think they said it's going to be one that the water will be able to flow over without causing damage.
Okay, and the last thing I have here, an application from code enforcement for putting up signs. This is for some other reason it's come to my attention. And what I found out yesterday, when I looked through this with Shannon, is that this has to do with the types of signs you can put up and the way they should be put up. The big thing is you can't put any signs on public structures. But what this does not have, and there are no rules about it, is what you can't put up. And so I asked her directly, almost abrasive question. I said, you mean you can put up a lewd sign, you know, with swear words on it or something? And she kind of looked at me a little funny and said, well, it would probably be questioned. But I said, but it's not illegal. And she said, that's true. In other words, there's a big hole in our code enforcements that people could put up all kinds of weird signs and they'd be legal today.
Well,
And I think it needs to be addressed.
some of that are First Amendment right issues. So I know at one of my city managers trainings, we went into this whole rigmarole of what we could regulate as far as signage, because signage is considered First Amendment right of freedom of speech, basically. So let me pull that out and I'll give you the regs, but based on, you know, lawsuits and things, there are certain things we can't regulate on what people are going to put up. And so we can regulate where it's going to go, the size of it, various things like that, but what it says. So I'll pull that up. Those are from the attorneys that presented at one of my conferences.
Okay.
But yeah, it's kind of crazy when you think about it. You know, realistically, we should be able to, but there's a fine line when you're infringing on somebody's First Amendment freedom of speech.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Couple things. How long have you been city manager for 3.5, 4 years?
3 years.
3 years. So, you know, when we first started these coffees with the managers, when you started it back when, 3 years ago, you really didn't see a lot of stuff, and you really didn't see a lot of stuff that was happening in grants. So, but what you got going on in your infrastructure projects, improvement services, everything that you're doing right now. So kudos to you and the city and the mayor and the councilman for what's going on, because grants is never going to grow and people pick at it and pick at it and pick at it. Oh, why aren't they doing this? Why aren't they doing this? But obviously you guys are doing a lot with what money you guys do have. So the grants is going to grow, and the baby steps that you guys are taking, eventually grants is going to regroup itself and come back together. So thank you to you and your staff and your
Thank
team.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This is impressive. It's cool. It's making
Yeah, when you write it down, you're like, okay, we are doing something. Yeah.
The good things. The other two questions I have, one's kind of just yes, like Milan is paving Milan, and that's a state highway. So is there a plan for them to keep going through Santa Fe? Do you know?
Not that I know of. I'm checking on that because I'm kind of like, well, how did Milan get picked? Our road is
It's
much
nice.
worse.
Good
Yeah.
for Milan.
You know, there's RTPO, and I might have mentioned this last time. It's the Regional Transportation Organization that looks at state funding, and they prioritize projects for our region. And we have reps from Milan, Acoma, Gallup is in our region, and so that group comes together and they decide, okay, let's do this next with the next pot of funding. So I'm not sure if that's how that one got on the radar, but or I'm like, who lives over there that has some pull? But yeah, we need to get on the radar, and I know Les and Donald are going to those meetings, but they're there to push for our community. I had heard in the last 6 months, we were told that 1st and 2nd Street are top priorities next funding. So, you know, probably we'll be getting something at least for those, but yeah, it'd be nice if they did all of Santa Fe.
Oh, yeah.
It's getting in bad shape.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The other thing, the last thing I had was, and this is, if you guys ever do it, it'd be great, but the turn signal that you have on Roosevelt, limits Roosevelt to go up to Lobo Canyon,
Uh-huh.
you have, from that side, you have a turn arrow, but you don't have a turn arrow to go off the limits. So when you're coming, you're like, you wait, and then you're darting across. So if there was
So on the light,
yeah, the lights, and there's not an arrow to go that way, but you still have the same amount of traffic going either way.
Heading west.
You're right.
Yeah.
It's always bothered me, I just throw it out there.
so that's the DOT's light.
Right.
Yeah, but I'll let them know. We want a turn signal.
Just, thank you.
Okay.
I was gonna
Yes.
ask you, the old library, are you gonna make that into like a historical museum or something?
You know, we haven't confirmed what we're going to do with that. What I'd like to do is work with the county. There's such a thing as a convention ordinance, and if we implement a convention ordinance, we could have our hotels charging $1 or $2 more per night to visitors, so it doesn't affect our citizens, but that money could be put to do a convention center. And what I'd like to do is, we still need to figure out what to do with the county complex that is there, and it's still, I think, in good shape, and I think it's functional. I would like to see what I think might work well there is I think the extension programs housed there and Youth Visions. Some nonprofits housed in there that are paying lease fees.
Well, I'm talking about the old library.
Right, well, I'm just talking about that area. If we got a convention center, there might be something that we could have there that supports that effort, but we need a place for our historic society. They have a lot of museum artifacts and I think there are a lot of retired individuals that would be willing to volunteer manning it, you know, one person this day, one person another day. But we've talked about a historic museum, a Route 66 museum, but we've not come up with anything. So probably at one point we were meeting, several of us, the chamber, Main Street, the county, talking about the use of the old convention, the old county complex. But now we are going to have that library as well, so we need to figure out. CH2M Hill has asked for it. We have them at the Family Center now. But, so there's a couple of options, but we haven't confirmed anything. We welcome any suggestions, too. Yes?
Is repairing Roosevelt from First to Lobo Canyon out in the future? You know, I wonder about that street because it's just as bad as Second Avenue.
No, it's on our radar. It's definitely on our radar. That's one though that we have to, we can't just go out and pave ourselves like we are with the others. We'll have to go through all the DOT
Yeah,
process.
so that's probably a 2018, 2019.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay,
I was
Yeah.
gonna say something to you, you know, you may complain about the bumpy streets here, but I was visiting my son who works in West Valley City, Utah, and their streets are like Grant streets. You
Right.
go down those streets and there's a bunch of bumpy streets that we go over at, like, you know, where he lives. And I was thinking, you know, so they're all over the country, they're just not here, okay?
And that's true. And same with boarded up buildings. You know, if you travel around, I think all across the nation, communities are struggling with trying to upgrade their infrastructure. It's expensive, and there's just the economy hasn't supported that. Yes.
And I'd like to thank the city because when Rose and I have been going up and down Santa Fe, and we usually do it from Nimitz, and if we're going west and all the way to Kentucky Fried Chicken or something, that we're noticing that buildings that are more of a derelict nature are being boarded up. And then there's that larger white building on the railroad side of the street that was painted white, I guess, a couple of weeks ago or so, and there's some company, some enterprise going in there now. So the street itself, if you look off to the side, is starting to look better.
Right. I think things are picking up. I'm going to turn it over to Valerie so she can share what she's been working on.
Not a thing. No, it has been a wild first 30 days on there. Got a lot of movement in with the county, dovetailing with what Laura's got on her project to-do list. First thing I want to talk about real briefly is the detention center. Make sure the community knows what's going on with that. We did have the transfer of the population from our county jail over to Core Civic. It went very smoothly, no incidents, safe for the population, safe for the staff members. A lot of work went into negotiating that very quickly. We still are in process with a couple things with that. They do not have internet service. We can't be part of the Core Civic internet service, so we have to have our own dedicated line. That's moving a little bit more slowly than we had anticipated, but we're hoping by the end of October that that'll be running up as well. So far the flow of that has worked out really good. The problem with that is the budget, and I'm just going to tell you as straight as it is. They budgeted nothing, but I have to have staff there. It's going to take a staff of 14 that we need to pay for. We need a booking secretary, we need 24-hour staff, male and female, because not from the prison port population, they were strictly male, but the county, we don't discriminate, we'll take anybody. So I need to have a male and a female 24/7 on there to meet liabilities on there. So we're working the budget on there. Oh, let's jump to the budget. The state auditor's office is currently the offices down from where we do have a state auditor in. One of the first things that they noticed was that the the budget that was submitted to the state online was not the same as the hard copy. So we're kind of working on that right now. I actually have Rick Lopez meeting with me today here in Grants, which is kind of exciting. I have been very upfront and very open with the state. Come on in. Which was kind of shocking to them. I guess they don't get that response too often. But I've tried to say, hey, we're at a point we want to fix it. No excuses. We'll take it as it comes and we will repair. And it has been very, very well received. We are getting all types of assistance from other counties. Our Chief Procurement Office, young lady who's going to be moving into that position, she tests the third week of October, but McKinley County has sent over their Chief Procurement Officer so we can keep things moving, getting things paid and stuff like that. So there's been a lot of support from sister communities from us saying, hey, we know you're kind of struggling, what can we do to help? And that's that New Mexico attitude where you help your neighbor. And they've really come and anything that we've needed, the city, Milan, everybody's really stepped in. I just want to say thank you to them for, stepping up and there. But changes are coming. There's no doubt about that. Jason, just in case you didn't hear about the dress code thing, it's moving. As Laura had mentioned, when, with the teachers about having a professional, you don't want a police officer coming to your door in t-shirts and jeans and say, hey, I'm ready to help your problem. You're like, no, you're not. So with that, there's a level of expectation on there. And there was a bit of miscommunication in case any of you had attended the county meeting, which has since been addressed on there. Change is always difficult, but there needs to be a level of expectation. If you walk into the county building now, you're going to see a little bit better attitude. You're going to see people dressed a little bit more like business. Good morning, how can I help you today? We are in the process of starting the inbox, which is going to be an email line that anybody can make any comments to the county, where it's like, hey, I received really good customer service, or hey, I think this is an improvement. So it's a direct link into the county for every citizen that they would like to. If you want to write a letter, if you don't have internet, that's going to be available to you. Just write the inbox and it'll come to us as well. So I want to make sure that there is a clear, easy access for every citizen in the county to communicate with the county government. Laura and I have had a couple things where we've kind of overcrossed with citizens of the city that have come to ask us. We have a very good working relationship that we exchange information back and forth, and it gets done. We're here to assist, but we don't know everything. So when the citizens come up and say, hey, did you know, like the turn signal, we drive by it all the time, but it's just something that, wasn't, we didn't figure as a priority. So we're asking for that input continually all the time to make sure that, we're addressing what you guys think is important in there. Okay. So hopefully we'll have information out through the newspapers when the inbox is available and up and running for you. With the furloughs, they have been instated. Friday is going to be the first time where the county offices is going to be closed. My goal was to have, I put the notice out through December, which I had mentioned last time. If I can get resolution on where we are in the budget, whether we're to the plus or the minus, and have a hard number, because I wasn't sure when I came in on day one what the goal was that we were trying to get to, other than close the detention center, we put pink slips out to staff, and to do the furloughs. So I initiated the minimum I could to meet their requirements. So the layoffs were extremely less than what had originally been put on. And so the furlough days, if I can get them done before the holidays and we're no longer on that, of course, community will know as soon as the staff knows as well. My goal is to have customer service Monday through Friday. You will notice that there is no closing during lunch hour. If you guys are working and you have to take on your lunch hour, we need to be here to service that. That went over well too. So, so with that, customer service is the most important. I ask for your patience, but you should have a level of expectation. But when you do get good service, let me know so I can go back and give some positive reinforcement on there. Tax season is coming up, which is everybody's favorite time. Things can get a little cranky, or the lines. I know the treasurer, Kathy Gonzalez, is working on streamlining that. The assessors got their tax rolls over to the treasurer's office a week early. So the history of maybe not working together over the last 7 months, which have been demonstrated in the county meetings, that's water under the bridge. All the department heads are working very well together, networking, providing support to the other ones, which hasn't happened in a long time. So if people, the citizens, happen to go to the wrong window, they walk them over and say, oh no, you need to see the assessors. So that's the kind of customer service that I want to see instilled, that you get your questions answered no matter what window you go to. Okay. Like I said, the state auditor's office is coming in. The Department of Finance and Administration is coming in. We're working very closely with them. But everything's kind of in a standstill until I find out what the true budget is. There was a partial budget put on the website. By law, we have to go with what was submitted to the state. So we're going to have to recalculate our paper budget, get it to match, and then I'm going to post the whole thing on there. No parts, no anything. So you guys will have the same thing that the state has in its entirety. So you can see what people are doing. with the projects, like Laura said, she's got a lot going on here. We do too. One of the things that I tasked my department heads with, we have weekly department head meetings. I'm working to make a leadership team where they're supporting each other. But some of the things that I asked them to do, as Laura has stated with the city, policy and procedure manuals, ours is pretty outdated as well. As technology comes in, there's nothing to address it. So we are working on new policy and procedure manuals. We are looking at cost efficiencies. There's a lot of waste, and waste just eats up our dollars. I'd rather spend them somewhere else. So we're looking to streamline things. Even simple things like changing your tax forms for your withholding. I was surprised there was no share drive, which a share drive is like, call S for share drive. And what it allows administration to do is have the most current form online. So if I come in and say, hey, I go to HR, I need a new W-4. Well, instead of having a whole stack that are pre-printed that you got to throw out every year, they just print as needed. So that's a cost saving on ink, it's printing, everybody has the most current version. So we're going to be doing that conversion as well. We'll start internal and then go to external. So if people in the community need forms, that they always know they've got the most current, and it'll be up on the website as well. So those efficiencies on there. One of the things that I did task my department heads with was grant money. We don't have enough in here, and I was horrified to see how much money was not used or not requested because the budget wasn't done correctly. So usually they start the budgets about March-ish to get ready and have it go by July. As soon as we finish this one by December, if we can get it wrapped up, January we're starting a new one. I want our stuff turned in on time so we do not have that penalty. The road department, I became aware of $168,000 that we let slide. Oh, we're not doing that anymore. So timing, meeting deadlines is absolutely important on there. So as we're all scrambling for grant money, there is communications between the village, between the city, between the county. Hey, I heard this new thing came out. And so that's how we're going to move forward, is it's not going to be just the city or just the county or just Milan. The leadership is working together because that's how we can make the most bang for our buck. So you may see some overlapping with some of our projects. Definitely with our communication is going to be building on that as well. So if you have an idea with Laura and she says, well, that kind of goes to the county, don't think you got to make another trip, because there is good communication between us moving forward on there. And I think we need to have that unity. It's been too fractured previous to this, and as we come together, then everybody's going to benefit on there. At that point, that's all I really have to share, because I don't have any more finance things, because we are in process to that. So I'd like to open the floor to any questions that anyone may have.
I'm looking forward to it. I think you're going to do a real good job.
Well, thank you.
Because your background and experience. I can see you're already getting ahead of things that have been built for you. So and then, like Laura did with the city, you two people have really done a lot. She's done a lot. You're going to be doing a lot.
We're busy, that's for sure.
But I'm looking forward to that.
That's good. Anybody else? Yes, sir. Just
To your customer service, and again, I'm a focal point for a lot of people who, for whatever reason, they don't like to attend these meetings. The biggest issue that they've had since the new complex opened is parking. Employees and the security at the courthouse, the sheriff's department vehicles, parked in spots closest to the door, therefore basically making people park who are attending there for county business park further. Initially, I remember when I toured the complex where they were building it, and during the process, the original plan was county employees were going to park in the lots in back, and therefore leaving the front. Now, it's not a big issue that county employees park in the front, but they shouldn't take the prime spots. And that directly is a customer service issue, and it's not just here. I mean, the library here was notorious for years. The library staff parked in the good spots, therefore making other people park further. If you're gonna talk customer service, do real customer service.
That's a good idea.
Customer comes first, the employee and the staff, their second thought. Take a mall, for instance. Those poor guys have to take shuttle buses and walk quite a bit from, and they get fined if they park in customer spots.
We are looking at secured parking in the back, to have it gated, on there. I'm not sure if you guys know that the county has way too many vehicles that don't run, that are in poor maintenance, so yeah, we're gonna be liquidating that too. I'm not a hoarder, I don't like hoarding, and so that'll be streamlined, but the first thing I have to do is the budget, but that is on there. But that's a really good observation on there, because we do have quite a bit of elderly people that come in, and let's not be, the entranceway is a long walk even from the parking thing, so
Right.
we are looking to, one of the things that we're going to be doing in the front part of the lobby is have a greeter, not like Walmart, but it's going to have a desk. So you don't have to walk all the way down to the county manager's office, which is all the way at the other end of the building, and then you needed to go to the clerk's office, which would be. So we're going to have somebody to help people navigate where they need to go on there. So we're getting that set up as well, so you don't have to have wasted steps. But I will definitely bring up the citizen parking in the front and probably establish something a little bit more user-friendly for the citizens. Thank you, Joseph, for bringing that up. And so if you're going to be the go-to guy, then that's great. Call me.
You know I do. You know, I have no problem begging on your door.
That's fine.
Eric?
Yes, sir.
I know you've only been there a month, but you have a beautiful county building complex there. I know you see it every day, everyone else sees it. Your outside property is around your whole area. It's a little less than part. You're showing people that we have a great building, but we don't care about our property all around us.
Well, you know what I did? I went to Taco Village. I love Taco Village. I go there a lot. I have no chili green thing any on it, so they said, yeah, the white girls tacos come out. But I asked them, I said, why don't you have any weeds in your parking lot? And so we're getting the contact information, because I agree. You know, I may not be able to blacktop it, but you know, when weeds are up to your ankles or your knees when you get out of your car, it's a little disturbing. So we had a big snake population this year, and I'm like, I don't like that. So I agree.
Just a little bit, but
It's true, and you know, it's about the procession. You know, it looks like you don't care, and we do care. I only have a staff of 2 maintenance people. They take care of the new county complex, the justice complex, the old one on High Street, and then various buildings out there. So they're put pretty thin. So I'm looking to see if we can't get that, you know, 5-year guard, kill everything type of stuff out there. And I agree. It needs to be, because it's a problem, because then the weeds just tear up the, you know, asphalt that we have on there. But yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
Mr. Windhorse and some of our staff went to a training, and so they know the best ground kill.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
So I'll use that up there.
Yeah. I was telling Mr. Darling at that training, we also found out there's some chemicals we can use in the Rio San Jose to cut down the population of the growth there, because we're trying to get that cleaned out so the water flows better. So we'll be working with a couple of companies that come in and help us with that. But there are things that we'll cut that back too.
That would be great. That would be great. Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if my husband, I don't mean to be negative, but I had a breathing situation to the point where I couldn't catch my breath, so my daughter called 911, and the EMTs came, and here comes a fire engine.
Yeah, your
And I
husband.
saw-
Yeah, your husband brought that up last
And I'm
time.
like, wow, that's a waste of money.
Well-
I mean, you know, well, don't you need 4 people? Only 2 people could do anything about anything anyway.
Right. So
So it was like, oh wow,
we've had that concern. I know my dad, you know, was like, why do all the vehicles need to go? So I visited with our fire department. The fire staff are EMTs. They're not just firemen. They are.
We already had the EMTs there.
Right. Well, the
One person.
issue is that when they go to a call, this is what they've told me, and I've kind of gotten to know it a little bit better, but they get an emergency call come in, and sometimes we have a lot of domestic violence in our community. We have a lot of serious calls where they get a call maybe saying somebody's not breathing well, and they come and it's a domestic violence issue, there was a shooting, there's people there that are, you know, zonked out on drugs, and our staff, our firemen, our police officers, then of course they call for backup for police if they're not already there. But that's the issue. You know, sometimes you think, well, the dispatcher can figure out what's going on. People hide stuff and they call in things. When I talked, right after your husband brought that up, I talked with our firefighters about it, and they're like, well, we just went to a call yesterday and it was a possible stroke. They get there and there's a lady sitting there and they start checking her out. Well, she's got dirt all on the back of her. Well, what really happened is her husband did something to her, threw her out somewhere, because then finally the lady that was with her said, well, her husband dropped her off and said, let the effing whatever die. And so he had done something to her because she was all dirty on the back. So it wasn't a stroke. So sometimes, you know, depending on what the call is, they don't know what they're going to.
Fire should warrant a great big huge fire truck to use all that gas.
Well,
and maintenance on a great big.
Well, part of the issue is that we have some at one station and some at another, and so
Maybe
if,
have smaller units.
well, if they get a fire call, then they're without their unit. So then they, you know, they're in the middle of something and they get a fire call, and it's like, well, we got to go back to the station, pick up the fire truck. So I see your point, but then I also understand what they're dealing with as well. Sylvia's nodding her head back there. She was a police officer at one time and knows what the calls come out. Yeah.
If I can chime in.
Huge tank.
I was a police officer for 15.5 years, and we have policy and procedures on responding to calls in regards to like bank alarms, domestic violence, and stuff like that. But when fire department or the rescue department or ambulance get there, they're aware of the code chart, so they'll get on the radio and advise it's like a domestic or whatever, and so then the officers have to respond with just lights, with no sirens, because they have to arrive scout. That way they don't put anybody else in danger, and that way the backup arrives that assists the other people on scene. And as far as the fire trucks arriving, it's best that a fire truck arrives with everything that's equipped rather than, like the manager said, to get out there and call it out, because if that was your house, and it was just a house fire, and they took the little one out to check it out, and it was a bigger house fire, you want the least amount of damage to your home or anybody's
Yeah, but
life.
when you call 911, you tell them what the situation is. If there's a fire, there's a fire.
Yeah, but that's what I'm telling you. Sometimes the call-ins are not accurate. People are stressed. They have an emergency that they need emergency assistance, and they don't give good information, so you don't always know what you're going to.
I gotta tell you, last year my little mother is 91. She became angry because I was cleaning her room. So she ran away. The firemen found her in their big red truck. And I'm here to tell you, I don't care what they were in. They found her.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of the
Yeah.
price of
You know,
big
right.
trucks.
How much
Right.
gas it took, I don't know, but they do their job and they were wonderful.
Yeah.
That's a good
For
job.
accidents, they have all the extrication equipment on the fire truck for accidents, and so if it's an accident, that's why they're responding with the big
Well, I
truck.
can understand that with a vehicle.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
because there could be a fire.
Right, true, true.
But when someone's can't breathe, to bring all that out was just like over.
Seems like overkill. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Any other comments, suggestions?
That's just a question for Valerie.
Yes,
Have you
sir.
had any communication or indication that the greenhouse is going to make their final payment next month? Or are you even aware of that?
Yeah, I haven't heard if they're gonna make their final payment on there, but to be totally honest, it hasn't been the highest priority on my desk on there, but I certainly can follow up on
That's a
there.
lot of money that would be helpful to you.
Yes, it would, but sometimes I can't make people write the checks faster.
Do you remember, Terry, were there 3 payments and they're on the
I
third?
think it was 2 and this is
2?
the final,
Uh-huh.
if I understood
Because
it right.
I
I'm gonna go
know
back and ask though.
we've not heard anything about what's going on with that.
When you and the county.
Right.
And the assessor, or clerk treasurer.
I'll check with Kathy.
It comes due in November, and last year they paid it as a surprise, so this year they'll.
That'd be wonderful. I would love that.
So Terry, I don't know if this is the appropriate avenue, but can you tell us a little bit about what the deal is with the possibility of putting the Patty Martinez on the name of the mining museum?
We met with Harry Garcia, the board did last Friday, and the board a year ago voted not to do that. We have an entire wall dedicated to Patty Martinez, but the board feels like the museum was a testament to all of the miners. And Patty was just one player. Stella Dysart was probably a more important player.
Yes.
In discovering uranium, and her name's not on anything. So at this point, we've agreed to put a group together to work with Harry and see if there's an alternative. We understood last year the mayor had indicated he would name the amphitheater after Patty Martinez. Their point is that Patty is not recognized anymore since we moved the ballpark, which is not accurate because the name is still on the ballpark, even though we've added Candelaria. So there were suggestions about renaming a street, which I didn't feel was too appropriate because it would cost the city a lot of money, be a lot of confusion on mailing and advertising and Google and things. So we're looking to do something, maybe indicate the stairways as the entry to mining or something like that. So at this point, there is Harry's gone to the General Service Administration. He's got permission to rename the building. Wouldn't affect the name of the museum or the board or how it operates. So unless he rescinds that, it's kind of a done deal. They did indicate that they wouldn't provide any funding to do that. And I understand it's somewhere in the neighborhood of $200,000 or something like that for lettering. So I guess the thing's kind of in limbo right now. Like I said, we've agreed to work with Harry to try to come up with some kind of compromise. It's important to us we keep the branding. We spent several $1 million over the last 30 years internationally and nationally branding that name. And we feel like people are coming to the mining museum, not to the Patty Martinez building.
Right.
So we want to continue to recognize his contribution, but a lot of that has been city money, obviously, as we brand that name, and it's become very effective. We're on the path to probably have 10,000 visitors this year. We had about 8,000 last year. So it's a big economic impact, not only to the city, but we do all the county advertising there too when people come in and send them other places.
See, my suggestion was that if the Gallegos does metal work or something, if you had somebody do a metal figure of Patty Martinez and put it on the out there in the grass and say this is Patty Martinez or something like that.
With the light in his pocket, because he was carrying that rock, right, of uranium.
What's that?
Put
Put a rock next to him, just a metal statue. The other one's like the guy with the grill, the guy with the grill there. You put one of those, and that would solve the problem, because they say this is Patty Martinez with this thing, right?
And have the rocks glows at night.
Yeah, there you go.
That's clever.
Right, I mean, if you think about that, that would save the whole thing for the building.
Yeah,
It's kind of in limbo right now. We don't anticipate it affecting the operation of the museum or the name of the museum. If the building had been named already, which we probably should have done, it would have taken a legislative act to change the name, but it didn't have a name, so Harry kind of carried the ball by himself.
Okay. Any other? Yes, Sylvia?
I just want to commend the new county manager, Ms. Taylor, in regards to a job well done. Even though she is stirring up, making some enemies within the county complex, she's doing a great job. I read in the paper yesterday how people are complaining about their dress code. I heard about another issue yesterday about somebody saying, well, if I have to go out in the field to do a house call on somebody who's on pre-trial, I'm wearing jeans. I said, as a detective sergeant, I processed homicide crimes in dress clothes. I don't believe you should be out there in jeans and a t-shirt doing a house call. Professionalism reflects the department you work for. Chief B. Hill, the only time we wore jeans was on Friday with a logo on our shirt. Grants Police Department was cleaning our garage and our evidence room. That's when we wore jeans, to clean. But, I mean, I processed homicides, I processed crime scenes in dress clothes. And do they need a clothing allowance? If they don't want to work, move along. Someone who wants to work will find a way to come in the appropriate attire. Just for success. Yes.
Well,
I'd like to share something, you know, I heard them talking about, you know, society today is getting strict about clothes, right?
She relaxed.
But when I started teaching in the 1960s, okay, and I had already been in the Army for 2 years, went to graduate school, and I was working in the textile mill going to graduate school. My first job, before I even had an income, I had to buy 3 suits, 3 ties, white shirts, and pants on what little income I had, and I didn't get paid yet. And these people are complaining they have jobs, and I'm thinking society today is getting a little spoiled, you know?
Well, but it's a learning curve with everything else, you know. You can't go from having been Lansco to full-blown business. So it's a gradual thing, and I've already seen an improvement on there. And the thing is too, the mindset changes as well. But one thing that Sylvia, that you did bring up that I forgot to mention is people who are going to be working for the county. If you're the assessors and you're doing whatever assessor people do out in the field, I'm okay with the jeans, but we need to have either a polo shirt or something that identifies that they're working for the county. I don't know about you, I don't want somebody coming up in some car in jeans, poking around my yard. It's a safety issue and it's an identification issue. I want to see picture ID badges, because the elderly, I don't want someone saying, oh yeah, I work for the county, and then letting them in because, oh, we work for the county, I should, because they're very trusting. It's a safety issue, so that's going to be moving forward as well. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I would have never bought jeans with holes in it until I worked for the county, because I seen that everybody was dressed in jeans, didn't care, sandals, tennies. So I said, I'm going to make a point. I went to Dallas, I paid $59 for jeans with holes in it.
Crazy.
Wanted to work to see if anything would ever be said. I pushed the envelope to the fullest. Nothing was ever said or anything. Unprofessional, because as a supervisor and you're in charge of something, you're going to say, you go home and change. Get home and change. And, you know, it was just, at the time it was, I pushed the envelope and nothing ever got done.
Well, it looks like those days are over.
Yes, they are.
Yes, ma'am.
I think you'll find that eventually people will live up to your expectations. They do.
Yes.
But
And mine are high. I'll tell you right now, my expectations are high. When I was talking to the state auditor's office on a conference call, I could tell that they were a little shocked to hear what I said. I said, I want Cibola County to be the best county in the state. When you're struggling with other counties with their audits and things, you say, hey, you know what, you need to look and see what Cibola did. And they were very quiet, and I said, oh, we're gonna make it happen. And they're like, oh, okay. So, you know, it's the positive attitude that moves forward. We're not gonna stay the same. My expectations are high. I think the results will be higher. And so the three of us, the community, the citizens, the county, the city, we all want the same thing. We just need to get somebody to stir the pot a little bit and make things move. And as you can see with Laura's, her to-do list, crazy busy. Same thing with the county. But we first got to find out where we are financially and then make it move. We need to be on time, we need to be compliant, and we need to be going after those grants. And that is the top priority.
I like your attitude, and Laura's done a great job since she's been here. You know, I'm sure you're going to do the same thing. So
Yeah.
it's really
We're going to stir them up.
Yeah.
Just like to commend the both of you, City Manager Ms. Hotmill, Ms. Taylor, for making a strong appearance in our community for our future girls that want to do something in the community. And I thank you for that, because I have a granddaughter and I want her to be a strong person that can make change in the community. Thank you.
Thanks so much. All right, let's break. Go conquer today. Go forth. All right.
Thank you for having these